What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The celestial compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Beal. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Beal.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Kathy Beal of EmpowermentUnlimited.net, and today we're going to be talking about the moon, special moon edition. But first, a quick forecast for the month of July, encapsulating what you can already find in my forecast at omtimes.com and my site, EmpowermentUnlimited.net. July has us personally dealing with assimilating and moving forward on whatever the changes are that the Saturn-Uranus square is bringing into our lives. The clash of the old against the new, changes in our relation to community, changes in our friendships and our social structures. It is a month of non-stop adjustment, of things happening, being liberated, seeing things differently, and then realizing that the circumstances around us have changed, that we need to adjust, but underneath it all, recognizing how much we have changed. And the change may very well be awareness of our own inner nature and our own needs, and shedding coping mechanisms and posturing and identities that we've been using to navigate the way the world has been. So it's a massive catch-up month. We are out of eclipses. Our communication mode will be going from our minds going a mile a minute to being very, very tender, sensitive, perhaps self-pitying. We could probably indulge in a bit of that, and nurturing, and then by the end of the month getting very, very fiery. As I said, we are talking today about the moon, and one brief personal aside as we get into that. The moon is very tied up with our notions of home, family, security, and of course, food and comfort. And my latest book is all about our crazy relationship with that topic. It's called Eat, Drink, and Be Wary, Cautionary Tales. And you'll find it at Amazon and Barnes & Noble all over the world. So, personal plug there. And now, to talk about the moon, I am very excited that we have as a guest someone that I have known through the internet for a number of years now. We met when I was doing the moon roundups for Astrology Hub, and I began incorporating his observations for each new and full moon into my roundups. And that is an Athens-based astrologer, Andrew Ifandis. He is a certified astrologer and author, and he travels the cosmos of astrology. He approaches the horoscope as a portrait of a person's inherent potential. His readings reveal the natal chart's vibrant dynamics and can constructively help towards awareness, self-realization, and externalization of the creative within oneself. When forecasting, he uses a mix of astrological prediction techniques and creates a meaningful narrative on the emphasis that the planetary cycles have in different areas of your life. Andrew's articles and astrological analysis have been published in the Astrological Journal and at astro.com. He regularly contributes his articles in renowned astrological publications and websites. He has 2 certificates in astrology with distinction from the esteemed Kepler College of Astrological Studies in Washington, and is a member of the Organization of Professional Astrologers. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Kathy. I'm very glad to be here with you. And you reminded me of a very good time when we were talking about the new moons in Astrology Hub. Thank you, OM Times also, for having me. It's a pleasure.
You're very welcome. And I'd like to point out to everyone that just as Ginger Rogers did everything that Fred Astaire did, only she did it backwards, Andrew manages to communicate he learned his astrological studies in English and communicates his findings very effectively in English. The rest of us are just thinking in English, so I applaud you for that. In honor of how we met through moon forecasts, I thought we would talk about all things having to do with the moon, and it's probably the most noticeable influence in the sky. We see it pretty much every night. Well, that and the sun. We want to start with the moon in the natal chart?
Yes, sure.
What it means?
Yes, sure. We can talk about the moon in the natal chart. The moon is a light. The moon is a light on the skies. And in reality, it is not a self-lit object. The moon reflects the light of the sun. So we have to always understand that there are two main archetypes in this dualistic world that we live in. There is night and day. There is light and shadow, light and darkness. So there is the sun and the moon. And while the sun is the more cognitive, the more conscious, the more male, we could say, aspect of our personality, archetypically speaking, astrological terms, the moon is the feminine side. And why it is regarded as feminine? First of all, it has a quality of changing. It is changeable. It has moods. It starts by being a new moon, and then gradually we see on its phase how it waxes and then wanes and goes to full moon and then goes back to new moon. So this ambivalence and this constant changing of its light resembles in a way the feminine and the woman emotionality that is more easily changeable than the masculine one. A second way to understand why the moon is related to the feminine side is that it nearly corresponds with the menstrual cycle of a woman. The moon is making its round around the earth and starting as a new moon and then goes to full moon and then goes to new moon again in a period of 28 days or 29. Depends on if you want to find the moon in the same spot as last time in relation to the earth. This is around 28 days. Or in relation to the sun, this is 29 days. And this corresponds with the menstrual cycle of the women. So,
and that is a correlation that's not made very frequently. So I thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, and that's how I was hooked by the moon and its feminine qualities. When I understood this, when I saw this, that happens, and in this respect, the moon is the feminine side of every person, either a man or a woman. It correlates to the emotions. It correlates to our basic needs, our inner needs, not what we think we want, but what we really feel that we want. It is the sensations that we absorb. It is the non-rational part of ourselves. Because under the moonlight we can grasp realities simmering under the light of the moon that are not so material, are more psychic, are more subconscious realities. So the moon has all of these feminine qualities. I also like to, I don't know how many of our listeners are acquainted with tarot, but, the high priestess in tarot is correlating to the moon, or the moon card in tarot. So it's just this archetype of a subconscious, feminine, nurturing quality.
Something that is embedded in you on a cellular level before your brain forms is one way I look at it. When you're things that you pick up while you're actually in the womb of your mother, energies, just approaches to things that are underlying below the level of and often unreachable by conscious thought. It sounds like another way of saying what you're talking about here.
That's a great way to put it, because moon is also related to the liquids in our body and the womb. So the child that's in the womb, through the liquid, absorbs all of these emotions of the mother. And also in the natal chart, moon reflects how the person perceives his or her mother. It's not necessarily how his or her mother is, but it is how the person perceives the mother.
Right, and I have come across individuals who had an intellectual notion of what they were looking for that would mean love, but they were always drawing something to them that had a more negative and disturbing quality to it, and you would look at the person's chart and recognize that, nope, the negative or disturbing quality is what they associate with their mother, and that's what feels familiar. Maybe not logically what you would want, but it just feels familiar.
Yes, it's a way to understand the person by looking at the placement and the aspects that the moon is making in the person's chart. And many times we see in consultation work that many of the habits or of the subconscious drives that people are having are stemming from their relationship with the mother.
Absolutely, and the moon shows you an awful lot with that. And the moon and the sun in a person's chart can show how that person perceived the relationship between mother and father. That also gives more information.
Yes, that's right. The correlation between the two lights and the horoscope. And that's why the moon affects us so much. Sorry about this. It is as if we're constantly seeing in the night skies an image of our archetype for the mother. So what we see and how our mother, the moon, correlates with other planets really affects us and really makes us emotionally, brings up sentimentality, pent-up emotions, all these things that are related to the child-mother relationship in a sense, in a way. But also the moon is tied to the food, as you have mentioned, and to how we care for other people, and the nurturing, because all of these are motherly gestures, and also to our country. Our country and our sense of tradition and country can be given by the placement of the moon in the natal chart.
There's a sense of tribalism, also bloodline or your ancestral connections that will come through the moon as well. Very much so.
What you said about tribal and ancestral. Yes, because it's not only the countries. It's much more. Yes, it's an ancestral archetype, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the placement of the moon in which house in the natal chart is can show very much about how the person goes about in his everyday life. Because while the sun is our conscious goal and what we want to achieve, and a long-term potential for the person, the moon is the everyday, what the person does every day, how he behaves in his everyday life, how he reacts to whatever is happening around there. Where is the main focus of the person?
And not always the conscious focus. It's where do you go? What do you do? And you can. I have found that when you finally get enough information about someone's birth time to know what sign the moon is in, even if the time isn't exact and you can't say what the degree is, it reveals so much about their internal drivers when you know the moon sign.
Internal drivers, yes, as you said. And let me share with you something that I have found out through my consultations. In most of the women that I have talked with during consultation, their moon became more prominent in their character, in their patterns of behavior, after they had a child, after they become mothers.
Hold that thought. That's very important. We need to take a break right here. We'll come right back to it in a second. Thank you very much.
Okay, Kathy. Okay.
Want help with your own celestial compass? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, for Astro Insight forecasts for each week, month, and new and full moon. Want to explore the personal impact? Make a decision? Understand another person? It is possible. Click the Services tab to book a personal session with me. That address again? empowermentunlimited.net. Welcome back to Celestial Compass. This is your host, Kathy Beal, and today we are talking about the moon with Andrew Ifandis. And right before the break, you were saying, Andrew, that you discovered in your consultations that your female clients moved into a different or a fuller expression of their moon sign after they became mothers. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, that's exactly as you said, and I laughed because it surprised you. You see, for example, a woman who is a Leo and happens to have her moon. This is a real person, and happens to have her moon in Virgo. Prior to becoming a mother, she was the Leo type. Craving for attention, wanting to go out, dressing in all these fancy clothes and wanting to have fun. And gradually, as she was more into the role of, parenting, all the traits of the Virgo came about. And I'm not talking about traits like, give food to the children and carry on serving everyone in the house. This is normal to be done by someone who is a mother. I'm talking about the way that everything was organized in the kitchen cupboards, for example. Instead of everything was around in the house, when she was the very Leo person, after motherhood, many things started to be more of a Virgo. And from that first time that I had this observation, I started to talk with all of the female clients that I'm having consultations, and in most cases you can really see this happening. I'm not saying that they're changing the zodiac sign, of course not. But the moon is more expressed. The moon is fully expressed because it has fulfilled his role in a sense, and it becomes prominent in the chart. That's how I
That's
see it.
fascinating. Uh-huh. That's fascinating. And do you see anything, how does that compare to what you see happening with the progressed moon in a person's chart?
That's a fantastic observation. Yes, we could say that it is something like this. It is something like this. The progressed moon is, in order our listeners to understand, is a gradual and a longer cycle in astrology, and it is a cycle that takes 27 and a half years for the moon to pass through all of zodiac signs, 28 years. So, in a sense, every 2.5 years, our progressed moon is changing a sign, and this corresponds to a different psychological approach. For example, a person that is having the progressed moon in Taurus might think more of how to find money, how to find a stable job, or how to fix to stabilize things around family and house and income. And then after the 2.5 years, the moon goes into Gemini. And then this person is, constantly changing interests, as a Gemini does. Or the person starts to having seminars, giving or taking seminars because the person wants to learn more things. The person becomes more flexible. Instead of having, fixed ideas in some things, now that the moon is in Gemini, he's more flexible and he can see both sides. So this gradual shifting of the moon in progressions is a subtle but gradual, and as the time goes by, more intense change in our psychology.
We go through phases that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something like this happens, but in a more permanent sense, with the natal moon when a woman becomes a mother.
What have you observed with men? Have you made any kind of observation about a change in the expression of the moon when a man becomes a father? Just out of curiosity.
I didn't have the chance to have so many male clients because, astrology is ruled by clients that are female.
That's true.
And that's how that feminine quality that I was talking about, in order to understand this and to be able to tune into these vibes, the vibes of astrology and psychology and archetypical language and symbolism, you have to be a little bit more, open. So the feminine side or the females are most times. So unfortunately, I cannot give an observation about a man.
That's fine. Just was curious. So you can tell some things about. I'm going to want to talk about other things, aspects of the moon, but to kind of wrap up a little bit about the role of the moon in a person's chart, the moon does affect your relationship with your home space, your living space, how you set your home up, and what constitutes comfort to you. I have found. Is that something you've also noticed?
Yes, and I have to say that in Greek, it is the same word that means familiar and comfort, familiarity that brings comfort, and house. And the word is IKEA. And IKEA means someone that is familiar. So in a sense, our home is our heart, as the saying goes. Home is where the heart is. Mm-hmm. And our home reflects our inner psyche and our inner workings. So yes, in a sense, house and the home and the familiarity and where we feel that we belong are all expressions of the moon.
So you can, if you visit someone, once people are visiting each other freely again, you can play a little game of figure out what their moon sign is by the way that they have set their home up. Mine's pretty obvious. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. I have a lot of toys. I have Moon and Leo. I have many, many toys. Anyway, if anyone's ever seen Pee-wee's Playhouse, I live in it. Okay, so switching off here. So whether you know what your moon sign is or not, whether you know what someone else's moon sign is or not, there's another way of working with the moon or paying attention to it that doesn't require understanding anybody's chart, and that is looking at what is happening in the sky. People do tend to pay attention to the full moon, especially because it's so noticeable, but the moon cycle really does start with the new moon. So, and you and I have both written forecasts on about or exploring what the energy of the sky is at a new moon and at a full moon. And the purpose is actually very different. Can we start with the new moon?
Yes. As an astrologer, in the beginning, you want to understand the aspects of the planets. But as you are more experienced, you see that the moon and the phases of the moon, that is the most frequent cycle, plays a very important role in predictive. Now, we all observe, all of us have observed the moon in the sky, and we know that the moon is passing through some phases. It starts with a new moon, then we have the waxing crescent, the first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, and so on. And after 28 days, we'll have a new moon again. So what is a new moon? A new moon in reality is having the sun and the moon in the same degree in the sky, and actually the sun is in a place that cannot lit the moon, the moon's face as it is shown from the earth. So the sun lights the far side of the moon, the dark side of the moon. So we cannot see the moon. But in reality, we're having the two main archetypes that I've talked about in the beginning, the male and the female archetype, the sun and the moon archetype, the cognitive ability and unconscious ability coming together. So a new moon always relates to something new that is born, and I'm aware of it. Why? Because the subconscious, the moon, or some deep feeling sentiments are somehow understood, and we are aware of them in a more conscious way, the sun. So the new moon is a great time to listen to our inner self and see what we are becoming aware of. What starts, what new ideas, what new notions we maybe have. And in that sense, this new moon marks also the perfect timing for starting new things. For example, if I want to start a company, and I want to choose a day to go to the taxation office, to the registration office, and start the company. It might be a very good idea to do something like this in a new moon, because the energy is in its beginning again. It is the restart of the dynamo, of the celestial movement in bodies.
And it is something that's going to grow. So there is
and
it
it's
comes
something
with,
that's going to grow.
right. It comes with, it's locked in with the potential of something developing. This, I think,
Yes, it's
leads
like
to
planting a seed.
yes, and this leads to the popularity, increasingly so now that we are all online all the time, of a new moon ritual, setting an intention or setting your mind consciously toward something that you would like to plant, to nurture, to cultivate in your own life.
And that notion is because we are aware of this intention, and we plant the intention into the subconscious, and we forget about it, and we leave the universe to do its job. That's the archetypical way to describe it. Yes, new moons are great for beginnings. New moons are great for intentions, and if a person observes where the full moon, where a new moon is falling on his natal chart each month by month, we have a very good notion of the area of life that is going to be highlighted, or the area of life that have events. There are numerous times that people that have a new moon in their 10th house, for example, something new starts relating to job or career.
Mm-hmm. And the new moon doesn't happen in a vacuum. It isn't by itself. There's always its interplay with what else is going on in the sky, and that's why actually paying attention to a new moon forecast can be really helpful, because you can understand how the rest of the celestial clockwork is playing with the energies of the new moon, and perhaps what other archetypes are really strong. And if you put it in your chart, you can then see what other areas of your life are being pulled into whatever the new moon is being highlighted for you. Is that too complicated, what I just said?
Right, spot on, Kathy, because one of my friends, who is not an astrologer, asked me if there are 12 new moons each year, and each new moon happens at the same area of your horoscope, we know what happens, why you are making forecasts. And I explained exactly what you have said, that each new moon and each full moon does not happen in the same set of aspects and correlations as any of the previous one. So full moons and new moon forecasts really can give guidance on what to expect. Very well put.
This week, as you and I are discussing, we are moving toward a new moon with the moon in her home sign of Cancer, which is wonderfully appropriate that we scheduled it for this. So that's the most home-based, squishy, feed-me ice cream comfort food, wear comfy clothing placement it could possibly be. So we all get to go back and revisit what makes you feel really the most comfortable in a way that completely undercuts what your conscious mind is doing. So just listen to the cells in your body and let them drag you to what you want.
It's going to be a very sentimental moon, I think, because all new moons in Cancer are sentimental. And you, of our listeners that are having your ascendant in Cancer, regardless of where your moon is in your natal chart, you're always more influenced by new moons or full moon in Cancers, because the moon rules your ascendant and affects you more. So pay more attention to the forecast for this moon. Yeah,
and that makes me think of there's a phrase in English, you wear your heart on your sleeve. And I think that applies to this. And I see that it's time for our second break. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. How would you like navigational tools you can use on your own? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, and click the Shop tab. There you'll find lots of talks and guides explaining the big influences at work now, like Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. You'll also find a variety of guided visualizations for relaxing, clearing your energy, or getting to know planetary archetypes. That address again, empowermentunlimited.net. Welcome back to Celestial Compass. This is Kathy Beal, and we are talking today about the moon with Andrew Ifandis. And we were talking about the new moon in the sky, and I think we should move on to how the moon then develops heading towards the full moon.
Yes, after the new moon, there is a gradual growth of light. And what really happens is that the seed that was sown is growing. The need or the awareness that we had starts to emerge, starts to become something that we live or something that we try to achieve. So, as the moon gradually grows, we might have some difficulty to achieve or to adjust how to bring about this new idea, how to grow this seed. And this is reflected by the first quarter moon. And but then gradually, the moon really reaches the peak point from its starting phase and becomes a full moon. So then it is that we have the culmination of our efforts. Then it is that we have completion. Or it might be that then it is that we have not yet accomplished what we wanted, and a light is being shown on what we have done up to now in order we readjust or realign with what was the initial intention. So,
and often this has to do with. I'm so sorry. Go on.
No, please, please.
All I was going to say is that I often refer to this as a report card or a status report. You get to see, here's what's been growing, and very frequently there is an emotional component to it. You see what's been growing, and you get information about how it feels to you.
Yes, exactly. Because in a full moon, what happens is that the sun is fully lighting the moon. So we can see clearly how things have been. And many times when we have a full moon, things are being revealed to us. It's not like the awareness that we're having in the new moon. The awareness stems from inside, stems from the subconscious and the conscious processing of the subconscious. In the full moon, these two archetypes are opposing one the other. So we're having the sun on one side saying that was your intention, that was your goal, that's how you think about it, that's how you want it, that's how you desire it. And on the other side, we have the moon that says, okay, but now that I've seen it, I might feel a little bit different. I don't feel the same, or I'm that it needs more to be done. So it's a contrast, and this contrast highlights this tension between subconscious and conscious. And many times this tension is being projected into our relationships. And how we react with other people under a full moon. That's why many of us under a full moon are a little bit more itchy or a little bit more sentimental, because it's like self-observing a full moon. but it's always revealing. It's always revealing, and when it passes, it always have a feeling of relaxation. Oh, okay, it passed. Okay, now I can move on. Now I can, again start to pick the experience, understand the experience, and then plant a new seed based on the experience of the full moon.
Have you observed that there is frequently at least the appearance of a higher amount of emotional drama around a full moon? And do you have any idea? I mean, what's your explanation for that?
In reality, I have observed it. There was a full moon last summer in Athens. I think it was July. I don't remember which full moon it was. And it was a very, I think it had Mars. And I went to a grand square with cafes and people going to cafes or to bars, enjoying the place. And it was a nice summer night. And everyone that night, I mean everyone, was, you could see the tension. And I've seen more than 3 quarrelings that night. And I was so impressed. Even I was so impressed. That's why we say that that person is lunatic, because
right.
Lunatic comes from lunation. Yes, there is a correlation. Okay.
Full moon madness.
It depends on the person. It depends on many things.
I have heard that emergency rooms in hospitals are busier on full moons. Who knows? Maybe there's something with the full moon's fullness stirring all the water in our bodies and encouraging people to act in a non-rational way. I don't know, but I certainly see it. I can usually feel it building, and I usually get a lot of texts from people on my phone saying, "Is the moon about to be full? Everything's crazy." Yes. Yes, it is.
But
when I was still
in any case, in any case, we have to be aware of this high intensive emotionality that full moons always bring about, and be a little bit more cautious how we express feelings. And more importantly, the messages of the full moons is to reveal to us aspects of ourselves, aspects of the other persons that we relate with, or aspects of our intentions that have to be readjusted. That's why they happen. And if we are lucky that they mean a culmination, and that meaning that everything from the new moon to the full moon has been done correctly, then we can enjoy and celebrate the full moon as a culmination of our efforts and our achievements.
Which leads to the notion of a full moon ceremony that some people like to have, or a ritual. And it's a really appropriate time to acknowledge what has grown in your life. And if there's something that is developing in a way that does not feel right or good or feels like it's run its course, it's an excellent time to release, to consciously let go, because the moon is going to start dying back afterwards. So you can let go your grasp on something.
It's also a very good cleansing time. You can do some cleansing under the moon, inner cleansing or actual cleansing, with candles or with some sticks that have, the Indian sticks, or a Toltec, feather. So you can do some cleansing on the full moon in order to release this energy and let it go.
And as you pointed out that the new moon will happen in a particular area of your life. The same thing is true of the full moon because it's moving through the zodiac signs as well. So you can look at the part of your chart where the full moon is occurring and get some information about what your culmination or harvest is in that area of your life. You'd agree with that, right?
Yes, and full moons affect two areas in our horoscope because we have the one side and the sun on the other side, and most of the times they affect our relationship with other people due to this contrast, due to this opposition. It's
right.
It's everything is being projected. Everything is being projected to relationships. So
and that probably
to.
Yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
It's a good time to. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a good to reflect also on how we relate, and either set some boundaries or ask ourselves understand where we might not be correct. And readjust things.
And the fact that there's a reflection and also other people involved probably plays into the full moon madness aspect of things that I was bringing up earlier. I was just interrupting you there a moment to make a smartest comment.
And the full moon of August and, Amors and love that is being... the full moon in August, as the full moon is lighting the sea, shimmering, its light shimmering on the sea. So it's not only a culmination that might be very emotional or dramatic. It might be also a very good full moon, especially in August.
We will all watch for that. Oh, and then after the moon is full, it starts to die back in the sky, and we move into a time called the dark of the moon, which is an excellent time for just being fallow, letting things lie as we prepare for going into the next new moon. What are your thoughts about the time after a full moon?
It is a time of reflection. It is a time of taking heed of lesson. It is also a time that we can, in a case of success or of a culmination of a good thing that happened during the full moon, it is a time that we can now see ways how to pass this good thing, how to give it a new start or a fresh start or to grow it more. So we reflect on what has happened. We take heed of the lesson. And then there is a time 1, 2, 3 days before the new moon that we astrologers are calling the balsamic phase of the moon, where we really need to be quiet. We really need to refresh our energy, to have a little silence, inner silence, and then to start again. So that is the cycle. You plant with a new moon. You try to achieve things, you culminate your efforts, then you understand what happened. You may have some lessons, or you may want to reap the goods of the efforts you have done. Then you relax, you come back, you do a little bit of inner work, you become silent, and then the cycle again. I really enjoy the balsamic phase. It gives me 2 days prior a new moon always give me a sense of futility and relaxation also. I don't have time, but I can rest. I can rest around that time. Don't know about you.
Rest anyway. Well, I really thank you. I thank you tremendously for talking with us today. Can you tell people where they can find you? What is your website?
My website is www.cosmosofastrology, COSMOSOFASTROLOGY, cosmosofastrology.com. And of course, anyone can find me at Facebook. In the link that you'll be having at the podcast, my name is Andrew Ifandis. It might be a little difficult how to spell it, but I'm sure they can through on times and reach me out to have a chat, to say hello, or to have a consultation with me.
Right. And if you follow Andrew on Facebook, you'll get links to his forecasts as well. And they're also at cosmosofastrology.com. And I really encourage people to read them because he gives it's a good overview of what is going on. And thank you so much again for being with us. I'm Kathy Beal. You can find me at empowermentunlimited.net and on Facebook at Empowerment Unlimited. And of course, my forecasts are also at Om Times.